Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to sage the area. It's Thursday. It's not Wednesday. It's Thursday. You're not lost. We are here. We are supposed to be here together tonight. I'm just saging my space because I love the smell of Palo Santo. All right. So I've been MIA for a while. Hello, Becky. Keep watching. And so tonight I'm going to be talking really fast because I want to get everything in. But we're going to talk about two topics tonight: love and boundaries. So what I want you to do as I'm talking, getting the intro started, getting you guys comfortable, and what I want you to think about is think about the last time that you felt love, okay? Because love is a feeling. It is an experience. I want you to think about that. Maybe write it down. I'm going to be doing something different tonight. I'm going to be activating your journal brain. So if you have a paper and pen, bring it or get it out because we're going to be journaling. There'll be journal prompts. You can just write down the question tonight or come back later and journal. But throughout the night, I'm going to be prompting you with questions, okay? Because we want to stimulate the brain tonight and open you guys up. And then also think about what the word boundaries means to you, okay? Because I think what's happening is that word is getting like a bad rap. And we think of boundaries as like a wall or a shield or blocks. And it can be. It can be if you don't know how to use the actual practice and the principle of boundaries, okay? First thing I want to tell you all is I did it. I finally got it all out of my head and all out of my journals, and I made my own, for you guys, for me and you guys, a grace and gratitude guided prompted journal. So it's got big reading for us senior readers that, hard to see. It's got some pictures and it's got enough pages. I want to find the comments. Hang on here. So I think I got to go one way or the other. No. Okay, somebody comment on here so I know that the comments are working. Hello. Okay, good. The comments are working. So it has enough pages in it, and they're big. So it has enough pages in it for like 40 days. If you see, there's pictures. If you want to journal every day, it's enough to create a habit. Okay, and that's my idea, is to create something. It's fun. It's fast. There's not a lot, and I'm selling it for $15. It is not on Etsy yet. It will be. I talked to my goal coach today, and we were talking about imposter syndrome. Whole nother topic. And I was saying, like, why is it such a big deal that I haven't posted this yet? So it will be on Etsy, all right? It comes with, you can buy it separately, $15, or you can get it with the Words to Live By deck. See, matchy, that I also created for $25, all right? So together, it's for a bundle, it's $40, okay? All right. Okay, so if you guys watched the video that I did around, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was at the end of the year or the beginning of the year. It was around that time. I pulled 12 cards for 2025. We reflected on 2025, and then we predicted what was the energy. We talked about what was coming for 2026. So I haven't done a reading or a live in a while. And so I really wanted to find something that I could kind of reflect back on. And so what I thought of was, okay, well, the card that I pulled back then in that reading, in that video, was for March. It was for love. Loving yourself, opening yourself up more. And then for April, it was about boundaries. So kind of it's been a month after Valentine's Day, and we get back, and it's after Christmas, and now it's getting to be springtime, and so we still want to like make really good connections with ourselves and our loved ones. So that's why I chose to do love and boundaries tonight. All right, we will try to pull cards. We will pull cards. We're not going to try. We will pull cards. So think about the last time that you actually felt like deep love in your body, because it is an experience. And I did take some notes. I did get some science stuff. So if you see me reading, that's just what I'm doing over here, okay? Because I got to stay on point. Otherwise, we could just, ramble about anything. So there's hormones. So oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin are all hormones that are produced when we feel love. So think about the last time that you felt love. So oxytocin produces like bonding and a trust connection. Dopamine is that pleasure center, the reward, it's attraction, kind of excitement. And then the butterflies, that's where the butterflies come from. And then the serotonin is more of a mood stability. That's where we feel safe, okay? So that's the body. Now, psychologically, love is tied to attachment styles. I'm not going to go in deep detail of attachment styles, but if you are at all curious about what your attachment style is, there's tons of tests that you can take online. I personally am an anxious attachment. And I'm learning how to kind of get out of that, because if we are in that attachment style too long and we depend on that, it can become toxic, because essentially we want to love ourselves and we want to meet our needs first and be able to take care of ourselves first and not be dependent and codependent on others to make us happy and to make us smile and to do this and that. We want to learn and to be reliable on ourselves. Okay, so hello, Kathy. So this neurochemical experience that love is, things are happening behind the scenes, and so if you're a science kind of nerd like I am, I think about those things when I actually have a feeling about something. I think about what my body goes through. I think about what my brain is going through. And I don't know if it's just me and I'm a science nerd, or if it's like, if like my body is designed, or if spirit is like sending me these things, because I need to be aware of what's going on in my body. Now, I'm a type of person that has a hard time being in the moment. Longer story, different video. So, for me to actually look at the science part of it, it keeps me stimulated. I think that's like that adult ADD thing. So it keeps me stimulated in that moment so that I can figure out, I can kind of concentrate on, all right, this is not helpful for me. I'm spiraling, or I'm going to explode, or I'm just overwhelmed. I'm flooded. And so I kind of look at the science part of it. Okay. Now, love reveals what attachment style we are. And when we think of attachment, sometimes that word gives a negative connotation with it, but it's just when we talk about attachment styles, it just means that it's just how we were raised and how we were shown love and how we displayed love and how we learned that reciprocity. Okay. It is, I wrote down here, it is the essence. It's the essential essence of being a human. We are here to love, to be loved, and to experience love as a human being. If you don't take anything else away from this video, that's that. We are put here as humans to love, to be loved, and to experience love. Okay. Love isn't just butterflies. Sometimes we think that, if I get butterflies in my stomach, it's a spark. It's that meant to be. No, that's part of it. That's part of it. But if if the butterflies are turning into more anxiety, then that might be a red flag. And we'll talk about that as we go. Love isn't just butterflies. It's actually your nervous system deciding if it feels safe with someone. Now, talking from experience, me and my husband were separated last year for a while. We are now back together and learning a lot about each other again, and kind of putting what we've learned and figuring out that we aren't those old toxic people anymore. Like we've chosen to put those things aside. And so not having that inner safety in that old relationship has really made me appreciate and really open my mind up to what I really want out of a relationship, and him as well. So when we don't feel safe with someone, that's a red flag, and that is something that needs to be addressed. This whole past year has really forced me to really sit with myself and sit in my own dirty bathwater and find out what my limits were. What am I tolerating? Why am I not tolerating? Is it something that I can control? Is it something that I need to deal with? Is it a trigger? Is it from a past life? Because I'm witchy like that and I have to deep dive everything. Some people confuse love with familiarity. And some people confuse love with attachment wounds. So this is kind of interesting this has come out through meeting other people and also through my spouse, okay, and my children as well. But sometimes we are put in people's paths, and people are put in our paths to trigger us on purpose. Think about an experience or a relationship that you've had or that you still have where there's just a lot of friction, and you just push each other's buttons. So that relationship is meant to be that way, to either get you into a different mindset and to accept that person more and that person to accept you more, and vice versa, or to get you to realize that, oh, I need to look at this in a different perspective, and I need to maybe forgive something, or I need to heal something from, and it sometimes when this person triggers you, sometimes it has nothing to do with that person at all. It's just they're the portal. They're carrying whatever it is that's triggering you. Sometimes what we think is love is actually a pattern that we haven't healed yet. Talk about triggers with partners. Okay. Love intuitively. Love is an energetic frequency. When you can actually have a rose ceremony, and where you have a Reiki practitioner and they put rose petals. You buy the roses and you put the rose petals all over your body, because the rose is the highest flower with the highest, the flower with the highest frequency of love. And it's a really cool experience. I wasn't wowed by my experience at first, but just the way I felt during and after it wowed me the most, because it was such a peaceful, calm experience. And that was really hard for me at that time, to just be able to experience calm to that degree and then enjoy the calm. Okay. Love flows best when you are aligned. Now, when we talk about alignment, we talk about, basically I explain it just feeling good in all aspects of your body, physically, mentally, emotionally. And I wrote this down, learn how to recognize what self-love feels like in the body first. It sets that baseline or sets the bar when we feel it with others. Sometimes this information is how we reveal codependency. And that kind of goes along with being triggered. Attachment and early experience. Love is shaped by how we are bonded in childhood. Attachment styles influence how we give and receive love. If you have a secure attachment, that means you had an open and a trusting relationship. If you have an anxious attachment, that's what I had. Clingy, fear of abandonment, intense desire for assurance, because I wasn't getting enough of that. So sometimes, did I put that on here? Like in partners? Maybe I didn't yet. So I'm just gonna say this right now. Sometimes what we didn't have as a child, we are kind of by automatic, and sometimes we don't really know this unless you like do a lot of introspection and do a lot of reflecting. I had this epiphany a while ago, and so I realized that one of my parents was an avoidant, classic dismissive avoidant. Never talk about feelings, let's just find a different way to express. Find a different way to express, not even close. We just explode, okay? So I was taught to like yell and explode and hit and break things, okay? So I didn't get that, like that safety, that security. So I found myself looking for partners that were dismissive avoidance because that was familiar. My body knew chaos. And so why not go for something that I already know how I'm going to feel in my body for it, okay? But when I started my spiritual journey, I started to question, everything. Why am I with this person? Why is this person with me? Why are we still, combative with this topic? You know what I mean? And so it was, even though it was an eye-opener, it didn't really fix the issue, but it did help put perspective on it, and it helped me kind of get over some of my insecurities about being so like needy and needing constant reassurance. And so when we were separated, side note, I had to do everything by myself, and it was hard. That was really different, and it was really difficult. Understanding your attachment styles really helps you see patterns in your relationships. It gives you those aha moments, and it gives you those perspectives. Noticing and responding to another person's feeling while staying connected to your own. Hello everybody again. Kathy's here, Brian's here, and Michael Zimmerman is watching. Thank you. Keep watching, everybody. Now we go back to the hormones. The oxytocin, it fosters trust and closeness. The dopamine is the reward chemical. So when we experience something and we experience that dopamine, it's almost like people, what I have read, that like how they compare it to is kind of like the love drug. So like it becomes addictive, and we like the way that it feels, so if you are, it's like a chemical dependency, and if you know like how drugs and alcohol feels, then you can relate to that sensation. We like the way that feels, so of course we're going to do more of it. Okay. Is love in a relationship going to give us that dopamine hit every time, all the time? And I think that's where our fantasies come from, is in the beginning of a relationship. That dopamine hormone is just like, especially if you're having a lot of sex in the beginning, that can just keep producing the dopamine. That's like an intense dopamine. And what a lot of people don't understand is, and I was like, in my younger days, I was addicted. I was like a love junkie. I couldn't wait for that feeling. And so a lot of my relationships didn't last too long, because I was kind of fixated on having that dopamine rush because of never getting it the way that I needed to as a child. And so I was in quite a few toxic relationships. And so what I want you guys to think about is think about some of your relationships that you've had in the past where it was just like so on point, so wonderful, so beautiful. And then maybe 6 months from now, or 6 months after you guys, started dating or even married, certain amount of time. Hello, Christina. That it just kind of like you started to fizzle. Like, what was actually going on? So it's healthy to have that in the beginning, but we need to be mindful that eventually, we have to find some kind of balance. Okay. Love affects the brain, tied to motivation, reward, empathy, and decision making. So think about how you are in your relationships and think about other things that are like causing you some struggle in your life. Is there enough love in your life? And going through what I have gone through, and now I'm kind of at that, like, I'm in the beginning phase of that, like, peaceful stage. I really appreciate when I do experience love. And because I know that it's not gonna like have that every day. But if I can remember how that feels in my body, then I can let my brain kind of reenact it without it actually being reenacted in real life. Does that make sense? Somebody comment on here if that doesn't make sense. Being in a loving connection lowers the cortisol levels because we are at that trusting phase, because it produces the hormone where we can trust ourselves. We can trust that other person. So think about your relationships, and, even if it's like with parents, friends, siblings, your partner, and think about how your body feels around that person. And think about how, and this is fun. This is awkward question because it's a weird random question, but ask your spouse, like, how does it feel in your body when you express your love to me? And how does your body feel when I express my love to you? And kind of talk about the different love languages. And because sometimes maybe that's where the gap is you just aren't recognizing, hey, this is what I need, but I need this X, and my partner is not giving me this, but he's giving me this instead, but this isn't landing. So to make a relationship work long term, you have to find out each other's love languages. I don't care how silly you think it is. You don't have to buy the book. Just Google it and talk about it. Have a conversation about it. It's not anything that has to be drawn out, but it'll give you that mindset of going, oh my gosh, like, I didn't realize that when you were doing that's how you were showing your love to me. Okay, let's move on. Just looked at the clock, and I want to talk about the boundaries. Okay, love is supposed to expand you. Okay, love is supposed to light you up. It's supposed to raise your vibration. It's not supposed to give you anxiety. It's not supposed to keep you up at night. It's not supposed to make you physically ill. Okay, so if any of your relationships are doing any of that, and you can't target it to something else, then maybe start looking at how you're being loved and how you are loved. Okay. If a relationship of any kind starts to make you feel small, where you can't be authentic, where you can't be honest, 100% honest, and that's hard. That's hard. That is something I had to learn, that I just had to be okay with doing it, because that's who I am. I'm very authentic. I'm real. I want to be honest. But think about it. Ask yourself that question. Can I be 100% honest with myself? Can I then be honest 100% with someone in a relationship? Whether it's your parents, whether it's your siblings, whether it's a close friend or your partner. Think about that. A lot of people can't really say that. And it's hard when one person in the relationship can handle the honesty, and it's hard when the other person quite can't, because it kind of creates a gap, because you want to be honest with them. And by you choosing to be honest with them, you kind of are a little bit expecting the reciprocity of them being honest with you. Even though they have a hard time with anybody else, but you just opened the door. You just showed your love to them. And that's hard. That's hard. And sometimes if it's not said in words, we have to look at what that other person is doing in actions. And that's why that love language is so important to understand and to talk about. Here's some journal prompts. All right, write these down, because we're going to talk a lot about boundaries now. Where am I being called to open my heart more? Where am I confusing love with attachment? Hello, Joe. And what does aligned love look like for me right now? I love asking myself these questions about what does something look like, because we are so conditioned, and there's so many, like the English language, and with all the new memes and I don't even like how kids and young kids talk these days with like such abbreviation. It's like, okay, can you just talk normal, please? Like, I have to tell my 20-year-old son, like, you need to talk to me like how I interpret it, because I don't understand your lingo and your new age talk. I don't. Like, I want you to use full words, no abbreviations, full sentences, okay? So when you ask yourself, what does that look like to you? You know, what does love look like? What does it feel like? What does it feel like to receive it? What does it feel like to give it? What are your love languages? All right. That's a really good one to like go on Google and just do like the love language quiz. Okay. Here's the next part. Boundaries. With love comes boundaries. Hopefully after we get done talking tonight, you will be able to love the boundaries, and you'll also be able to incorporate boundaries with love, because you kind of have to have both. And what I want to say right off the bat is, did I write it down? Yes. Okay. I will get there. I want to say it right off the bat. So boundaries is, if you have a hard time figuring out what your red flags are, especially with love or in boundaries with any kind of relationship, take a pause. I learned this from my coach today, and she's like, anytime you get like a confusing moment or an overwhelming moment, or for me, because I'm intuitive and I like, I get the messages pretty fast, but sometimes I just get blocked. And she's like, you just need to pause. You just need to pause in that moment, because we were talking about imposter syndrome, because I have a project that I want to start doing. And right now I'm kind of being my own worst enemy. And so she was talking to me about when I get in that imposter syndrome state of mind is to pause, take a breath. And even if you have to journal, to try to get yourself in a more grounded, more centered state of mind. But if you are having a confusing moment, trying to, wonder if this is really love, or if you are giving love, or if you are receiving love, really allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to just feel what you feel in that moment, and then if you can, sometimes if it's a really red flag, we will be triggered so much that we won't be able to do anything. Now, coming from experience, I've had insecure triggers that where I can't even I can't even remember to go to the refrigerator and to read my checklist of what I'm supposed to do, to take the breathing steps. So if you're any like that, it takes a while. Okay. And that's why I have it on the refrigerator, so that my husband can read it. I'll be like, go to the refrigerator. Just go to the refrigerator and read the 5 steps and then come back to me, or like shout them at me so that you can tell me what they are. But if you have to start asking your body, like, how do I feel? And then maybe some boundaries need to be set. If it keeps happening with this person, you know, and maybe just setting a boundary and looking at it, taking a time out and allowing you to set that boundary and taking that time out will give you that space that you need, so that you can look at, okay, was this me or was this other person? If I do this boundary, who is it going to benefit? You know, I want to make sure that if I set this boundary, that it's going to be healthy, and it's not just going to be because, you know, I'm sensitive and my feelings were hurt. Yes, your feelings are validated, but can you look at it differently? You know, if they weren't purposely trying to hurt you, then you need to understand why this relationship is that way, okay? Because we can't change anybody else. We can only change ourselves in the way that we react and the way that we think, okay? When you don't have boundaries, you experience more stress, anxiety, and burnout. I did a video on burnout not too long ago. So if you go to YouTube and go to the YouTube page, Intuitive Minds Already Know, and I think you can just type in burnout. It's one of the first, it's a recent one, okay? And it was a really good video I did on burnout because I was starting to experience that. Boundaries help define what is me versus not me. That's something that I learned really quick when my husband and I separated, because there was a lot of toxic projection going on. We just triggered each other constantly. And if he wasn't projecting his shit on me, I was projecting my shit on him. And we were just ricocheting back and forth. And we didn't, at that point, I didn't even know like what was mine and what was his until we actually had some distance. And that's where I was like, oh, okay, all right, this is making sense. This is mine, and I'm going to take full responsibility for it, and I'm going to unpack this and find out, you know, maybe why I wasn't wanting to deal with it. And that's easy when we have somebody that we can just kind of, you know, project on. But it's not fun. It's not healthy. And that's where if somebody is projecting on you, you need to take the proper boundary steps to go, you know what? I don't need to be in this conversation right now. If you are going to keep blaming me and shaming me and yelling at me, like if you want to have a conversation, that's fine. But there needs to be give and take, and it's not all just going to be you, all right? I had to learn that. We both had to learn that. Boundaries can be hard in the beginning. I admit when I started to understand what I had to do to figure out what was mine and what was not mine, I had to start with the boundary. I had to start setting boundaries with myself. I had to go, okay, when I am feeling triggered and flooded and my husband wants to engage and, you know, wants his needs met, I have to tell him. So a boundary that I had to set with myself was, okay, I'm clearly emotionally unavailable right now to myself, and I don't want to spiral out of control and start projecting all my bullshit and all my dirty laundry onto somebody that it's probably not to blame. And I have to take a step back and go, when I can, I'm getting better at recognizing that. In the beginning, it wasn't. For a very, very, very long time, I just projected, and it was just blah, blah, blah. And that can be really detrimental to a relationship. It can be, trust me, it can be really toxic. So what I realized I had to do is I had to catch myself. I had to really stop, catch myself and go, you know what? I need a timeout. I'm going to go take a bath. I'm going to go journal, or I'm going to go for a walk. And I will come to you when I am more regulated. And that's hard. That's hard because in that moment, we as women, I'll speak from a woman's point of view, we are probably feeling so sad at that moment and so out of control and so mad that we have just a plethora of emotions going on. And especially during menopause, everything is heightened. Everything is heightened. There are no rules. I mean, it's just out the window. And you basically just have to kind of like go second by second, minute by minute. But if you can, you start telling your spouse, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is a boundary that I'm going to set with myself. And I don't want to involve you in all of my bullshit, because sometimes it doesn't even involve you. So I'm going to take full responsibility of the mood that I'm in, and I'm going to regulate my nervous system to the best that I can. And so whatever I decide to do, I would hope that you could support me. And then maybe we can convene if it needs a conversation. Sometimes when it's hormonal, it's just so there and so intense that we just need movement. Sometimes the best cortisol dump is to just get movement, just to go for a walk or go work out, or, just maybe sometimes just talking it out. I have done that a lot, where I just go for a walk and I will just talk. I will just talk it out. I will talk it out of myself. Another reason why boundaries are hard in the beginning is we're conditioned. We're conditioned to, a lot of men are conditioned that happy wife, happy life. So if, she comes home screaming and yelling, that obviously he did something wrong and he's supposed to change it and he's supposed to fix it. And he's supposed to be the one that says he's sorry. And a lot of the time, us women are so overwhelmed with all the other roles that are in our life that I think sometimes we take a lot of it out on the wrong person. And that comes down to self-love and to self-regulation, and to look at, okay, if I am exploding like this, something clearly is not aligned. Something needs attention. Do I need more sleep? Do I need, like I said, do I need more movement? Do I need to talk about it? Do I need, is there a problem that I'm just burying? Is there something that is buried years and years ago? And now as we evolve and we become different people, we become different parents, we become different partners, a lot of things start bubbling up. And if you don't deal with your shit, it will eventually take over. Trust me. The body will fight you at first because ego loves familiar. I wrote that down. And that is so true. A lot of it can come from the people pleasing. And that right there is self-disrespect. So a lot of the love and the boundaries is starting with you and what makes you happy and what you can control, and really going in. A lot of these boundaries when it comes to self-love is looking inward. And that's where this can come in helpful, is journaling. I'm a stickler. I'm an advocate for journaling, because when we put the pen to the paper, it stops that monkey mind, because it makes us focus on the left brain and the right brain at the same time. Okay? It's science. Boundaries shouldn't be a tug of war. They shouldn't be codependent. They shouldn't represent codependency. Boundaries are not, I'm setting a boundary. I'm not going to do this or do that. And no, it's not punishment. That's why I think the word boundaries gets a bad rap and just a bad connotation. When somebody's saying, well, I'm going to set better boundaries. Yes, you should. Because if this person is saying things to you and treating you poorly for whatever reason, usually it's on them. Usually their behavior is on them. Usually they were taught from their parents to behave that way, to treat other people that way. So a lot of it is karmic. When we start doing our shadow work in this type of lifestyle, if we choose to go down that way, being authentic and really trying to like find your purpose in life, that's one of the things that we start working on, is the shadow. And that can be scary because we're like, oh fuck, like, you know, this is the way I was raised. And then once it starts to come to the surface and we realize where it's from, it's so frustrating because we know at 50 years old that we've been this way forever. That is not an excuse, because if you don't like the way that you are, you as a powerful, empowered, beautiful person, human being, we have the power to do it. It just takes some work. It takes some planning. It takes some diligence, some discipline, but it can be done. Trust me, it can be done. I thought I would never be anxiety-free without drugs. I am drug-free and I am anxiety-free. And I never thought, if you would have asked me that last year, if I was ever going to, if a year from now I would be anxiety, drug-free, I would be like, you're fucking smoking pot. Come back later. I don't want to talk to you. It's boundaries is more think of it as a scale. Like, you want to create good, balanced boundaries. You don't want to say, well, this is my boundary, because sometimes boundaries, when we first start to set them, we feel that we need to, because of that connection or disconnection that's being made. And we're realizing how this whatever it is feeling in our bodies. Okay. Once we're aware of it, that we're feeling in our bodies, we want to change it. We want to feel better. And when we realize that it's a certain person that is creating some of that disconnect and some of that anxiety in our body, the first thing that kind of comes out is ego. And that's like, you know, some anger and some resentment towards that person. And that's normal, because it's different. It's different. And ego doesn't like to change. Ego loves familiar, and ego loves control. And so when we start changing the way that we've been for a very long time, it can feel kind of awkward. So give yourself grace, give yourself some patience, and know that you don't have to perfect it. Okay. But it can come off, I wrote this down, it can come off like, you can come off as like kind of bitchy at first, just because you're not taking it shit anymore. And if that person has seen you be meek and mild and quiet and small when they disrespect you, then of course their egos are going to get butthurt, because their egos like control and their egos like familiar. So you kind of have a little bit of like, you know, both triggering what is going on. But sometimes all it is a conversation of like, you know what? For instance, an example, like, you know what, Dad? But, you know, you've always talked to me this way and I've never liked it. And you always talk to Mom this way and she don't like it and I don't like it. And so from now on, I will no longer tolerate you speaking to me this way. And if you do, I will politely remove myself from the situation, the conversation, or the room, and I will leave. And so if you want me in your life, I would really appreciate if you would learn how to not talk about this or say these things to me. And sometimes that's enough. That is just enough. And if you can get it out like that without screaming or crying on your first try, hey, you've got it licked. But trust me, the first time that you actually have to say that to someone, you probably will be crying and you might be yelling. But give yourself grace, because you actually did a really huge thing for yourself and you stuck up for yourself. Did you do it perfectly? No. Could you do it differently next time? Yes. But that's where all this learning and trial and error, and you just have to do what's best for you in the end. There are ways to do it without tone. That is something that me and my partner have realized, that tone can actually be the most triggering thing. It doesn't even have to be about what they say. And it can just be, you know, the tone of what they actually say. It doesn't even have to be the contents of the context of the word. It can just be their tone. So tone is very triggering for me. I don't know why, probably because I grew up with, you know, a lot of tone and anger growing up. So I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate the tone. If you want to say something to me, please say it. Because if you're putting tone in it, it means you're kind of being sarcastic and you really want to say this. But if you say this, then you really don't have to. And that's not being honest, okay? You are not responsible for others' feelings, reactions, or their reciprocity to the boundary. Let me repeat that. You are not responsible for their reciprocity of the boundary. So if you are creating a boundary and they don't get it, or they don't understand, or they actually kind of get, you know, more reactive or more defensive, it's hard to just walk away. It's really hard to kind of just detach with love and walk away from the conversation, or just say politely, I need to let you go. You know, I have other things to do right now. This conversation can be had when you're less defensive, you know. And that's what we want. You know, what we want essentially is for that person to respect us and for that person to understand. But when you're first starting to do boundaries with certain people, you know, including yourself, it's hard. And you're gonna kind of like fight yourself too, because it's so much easier just to give in to that person, because we don't have to think about it and we don't have to feel the anxiety in our body. But if you've been feeling this way for so long with that person, and all of a sudden you just like, I'm done, and you start like practicing these boundaries, and you're like, oh my God, like, holy cow, like instead of leaving that Christmas party feeling drained and drunk and sad and with anxiety, I feel empowered. I don't feel tired. I don't feel drained. And so you're like, that's kind of like the dopamine, because you just gave yourself the biggest gift of love that you could ever do. And that's by setting that boundary and implementing it, and then allowing your body to shift and feel it and then receive it. So it takes practice. It's not going to be, you know, learned overnight. Nothing ever is. But trust me, it's very healthy. It's probably the most important thing that you could do for your self-love practice, for your self-love journey, is just set boundaries and start with yourself. Start with yourself. Start asking yourself, God, you know, what don't I like about myself, and what don't I like about, you know, how I behave in situations. That's hard because, you know, we're critiquing ourselves, which is, you know, we are our own worst enemy. But sometimes if you can use your husband or your partner, or like you know, like a close friend that you trust, that they can critique you and be like, you know what, I'm struggling with this and I just want some feedback. Like, you know, do I do this a lot? You know, how do you feel when I say this? Or how do you feel when I act this way? Or how do you feel when I behave this way or don't behave this way? You know, so sometimes, or, you know, talking to a counselor, sometimes all it takes is just a small, short question or conversation to find out more about yourself. I wrote down, it's okay to choose yourself first, and I highly recommend it. Boundaries are how you honor your energy after you've opened your heart. So, especially now with my situation, I am trying to let my guards down, because I know that my husband wants this, and I know that he wants to continue to show me that he does want this, and I do as well. And so in order for me to allow myself to let down my own guard, I have to, you know, create an environment for him to let down his guard too. It's not just all about, well, I'm going to set this boundary, and if I don't get what I want, blah, 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 you're not going to get what you want. And that is not the best way to be in a relationship, especially if you're like trying to rekindle a relationship. So it's give and take. It's, communicate. So journal prompts for boundaries. Where am I being asked to say no? What energy am I allowing that drains me? And what boundary would change everything right now? Sometimes it helps the other know that you're setting a boundary. The initial impact can come off as bitchy or defensive. So that way, I mean, if you are gutsy enough, and chances are, if you are at that point where you are ready to set the boundary, chances are that you've already kind of got that courage in you to have that conversation. If you've made it to that far where you know that you need to set a boundary and that you've decided to set a boundary, sometimes that's the hardest part. And don't worry about it coming off as bitchy, because chances are the first time you do, it's going to, because it's unfamiliar. It's unfamiliar, and this isn't a conversation that everybody has, during their day. Maybe they have certain people that they can be authentic with, and that will be authentic back at them, but not a lot. Not a lot. I mean, I have probably, I can count on my hand the number of people that I know, not even close friends, but the people that I know that I can be 100% authentic with them, and that they will be 100% authentic with me. And it's a different kind of relationship, because we both know that there's no bullshit, and that if we're both intuitive, which some of my friends are, then there's no reason to not be authentic, because they can sense it. They can sense, that I'm not being true, or that I'm, not saying what I really want to say. And so bridging these two is where the magic comes in. This is the core message for tonight. March, when we talked about that, if you did watch that energy, March showed us how to open our hearts, how to allow more forgiveness, more compassion, more self-respect. And April is asking us to protect that sacred space. It's loving someone and opening our heart up to be loved, doesn't have to be intimidating. In the beginning, sometimes it can. But, if you both are feeling that you're attracted to each other, and that there's things that benefit you about each other, and you're a better person when you're around that person, those are good signs. Those are good signs. Keep going, keep working at it. Not every relationship is perfect. Love without boundaries leads to burnout. And that was the video that I talked about. Boundaries without love lead to isolation. And we're learning how to hold both. I want to pull some cards before we end, because I did say a lot. And there was stuff that's why I have these, because I can go off on a tangent and talk about anything that comes up. But okay, so I'm going to use the deck that I created. It's called Words to Live By. Originally, I branded it as a oracle card deck, but now I've kind of changed my direction with that market, and I'm labeling it more as a inspirational card deck. Okay, so, all right, Spirit, it's your turn to talk. Use me as a conduit. Use my voice as a clear, concise highway to interpret this card that we're going to pull based on love and boundaries. Just give us some more information on love and boundaries. And if we pull the love or the boundary card, I will probably piss my pants. that's the way this shit happens. Okay. I'm going to cut the deck and pull this card. It's grounded. Look at that. So that makes perfect sense. So when we are grounded, we are slowing ourselves down. We are putting the brakes on all the expectations that we put on ourselves, all the expectations and all the reliability and the dependencies that people have on us. And we are bringing it back to center, and we're bringing it back to us. So practicing grounding is so important for that self-regulation. So it's something that needs to be done daily. So think about some of the routines that you do that kind of wash away the day. Like, I take a shower every day at night before I go to bed, and then I have these lotions that I put on, and lately I've been trying to journal. In the journal, I'm actually doing the journal and pulling a card every day to kind of get my mind just off of whatever I thought about that day, or if there's anything that's like ruminating and that I don't really, it's not like good to think about. Like, because like my brain, it can go like on a hamster wheel, and I'll just like keep ruminating the same damn thing without even results. Stop. Shh, I'm almost done. And so find a routine that you can do that kind of makes you feel like accomplished that day and centered, and just for you, whether it's in the shower, or maybe just putting some lotion on your feet, or putting lotion on your body. Another thing is like when I brush my hair, because I don't do it every day. But like grounding, when I wash my hair, because I wash it like once a week, that is like a huge grounding, because it takes a long time. And for some reason, I just kind of like, I don't know what it is, but for me, brushing and washing my hair, maybe because it's something I don't do every day. So when I do it, it's very intentional. And it takes a while, so that I have to focus on what I'm actually doing to get it done right. Just find a way that works for you to kind of put all the unhelpful things away for that day, and then give a little gratitude for one thing. If you can't necessarily find a physical something to do grounding, just do a mental ground in your head, and just picture yourself connected to yourself. And some of the ways that like spiritual yogis will like picture you have roots like in your body, and that they're going into the ground, and just like some visualization, meditation will definitely ground you. I sleep on top of a grounding mat. You can buy them on Amazon, and they just plug into your outlet. So find your way to kind of bring yourself back to yourself at least once a day. And if you have never done this, and you're just on your phone, and then you pop the phone down, and then you try to go to sleep, maybe you should put the phone away an hour before bedtime. If you don't take anything else away from tonight, do that. Try putting your phone down an hour before you go to bed. That is the best grounding that you could ever do. I'm going to read from the book, and then we're going to say goodnight. I'm sorry I talked too much. We didn't have enough to pull more cards. Okay. This is interesting because it rained today. Like the earthworm, we are drawn to emerge out of the dirt when it rains. We notice the change in the vibrations when the rain hits the ground. This causes us to come out of our burrows. The earthworm finds it easier to travel across the surface when it is wet. as they need a moist environment to survive. Watch a worm wiggle its way across the blacktop or sidewalk. Inside the worm are very unique muscles, and when they contract, the worm stretches and becomes longer and thinner. Essentially, they can move and stay still at the same time. As humans, we need to practice grounding so that we feel safe and secure. By being grounded, we can wiggle and move the energies throughout our physical bodies. Being grounded helps us feel safe in our environments, safe in our bodies, safe in our emotions, and safe in our minds. And setting a boundary is practicing being grounded. And maybe practicing grounding is your boundary because you are doing something for yourself that will benefit yourself. And when we are grounded with ourselves, we are more in control of ourselves and more regulated. Whew. All right, folks, it's 8:01. Thank you for watching. And I'm glad. I don't know when I'm going to be on here again. I say that I'm going to do this every week, but now it's getting summertime, and there's just some different things that I have got into the works. Once I get more information on my next goal, I will involve you all, because it will involve you all. I need help with this. I need some beta customers when I launch my next idea. So I'm just going to keep it as a secret for now. But thank you. If you have any questions about what we talked about, if you'd like a reading, reach out to me. If you'd like the deck, reach out to me. They are on Etsy. The journal is not on Etsy yet. If you are local and you want to meet up with me to have a reading, reach out to me. And I have other things on Etsy for sale. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I would appreciate some feedback. So if you watch this on replay to the end or anytime, I would really appreciate some feedback in the comments. Okay, what you liked, what you didn't like, what I could do more, what could I do less of, or just comment on what you experienced during this Facebook Live. Thank you.